Good morning, everyone. I'm joining you today in my Christmas jammies, because what's Christmas without Christmas jammies? I'm sorry I've missed it several days. I got a little sick and my voice is still a little off, but we're going to move forward. Today's story is Christmas from Heaven. It's the true story of the Berlin candy bomber. Maybe you've heard of this guy. It's a real story from World War II. On Christmas Eve, 1948, somewhere between Wiesbaden and Berlin, a 27-year-old American pilot gazed into the night sky. The heavens were so full of stars, it seemed they would overflow and tumble to earth in a brilliant display of Christmas generosity and joy. Hal, as he was known to his crew, wrapped his hands around the yoke of his C-54 cargo plane packed with 20,000 pounds of flour. This is the real spirit of Christmas, he thought to himself as he guided his plane towards Tempelhof Air Base in West Berlin. Here's a picture of the real Gale S. Halverson was his full name. And this was a C-54 airplane. And this is what Berlin looked like after World War II. It was in rough. It had been bombed a lot. When World War II had ended 3 years earlier, Germany and its capital city were divided between the Western Allies and the Soviet Union. Then, in a grab for power, Stalin blocked ground transportation into the city. To preserve freedom and keep 2.5 million West Berliners from starving, the United States and Britain began transporting food and other basic supplies by air. Hal was one of hundreds of Americans who participated in the historic Berlin airlift, dubbed Operation Vittles. So here's a cargo plane full of sacks of flour. That's what it looked like. And these planes had to be loaded and unloaded quickly. They had a lot to do. That snowy Christmas Eve, as Hal radioed for clearance to land, his mind wandered back 6 months to the day that had changed his life. He had been standing at the end of the Tempelhof runway, taking home movies of arriving planes, when he noticed about 30 children on a grassy strip just beyond a barbed wire fence. In broken English, they asked about the planes, how much flour each one carried, and whether the airlift would continue. Although the children had been on meager rations, they were more concerned with freedom than with flour. They wanted what Hal had always had, the opportunity to pursue their dreams. For nearly an hour, Hal answered their questions before saying goodbye. As he turned away, one question lingered in his mind. What makes these kids different? All over the world, children were known to beg candy from American servicemen. These children had little to eat and no candy at all, yet they were grateful for what the airlift had given them and asked for nothing. Their gratitude melted Hal's heart. Here's a bunch of German children looking through the fence. Instinctively, he wanted to give something back. Digging into his pockets, he found only 2 sticks of gum. From little things come big things, his father used to say. A broad smile crossed Hal's boyish face. Giving so little to so many could cause a squabble, he reasoned, but a quiet voice within him urged him on. Hal broke the gum into 4 pieces and passed it through the fence. Without a word, the 4 children tore the gum wrappers into strips and passed them to the others. One by one, each small nose was pressed to the paper, breathing in the minty smell. Never had he seen such expressions of joy and wonder, even at Christmas. These are more C-54s, cargo planes. And that's Hal in Berlin. As Hal watched in amazement, his mind raced. If only I had more to give, he thought. He had his own rations of gum and chocolate. Maybe his buddies would be willing to donate theirs. Just then another C-54 roared over his head, and an idea formed in his mind. I could drop candy from the air, he said to himself. He quickly explained his plan to the children. When they asked how to recognize his plane, he remembered flying over the family farm back home. I'll wiggle my wings, he announced, spreading his long arms and waving them up and down. The children giggled with delight. Just promise me you'll share the candy, he said. All heads nodded in agreement. Here's some German children waiting for Captain Wigglewings. By the next day, Hal had secretly enlisted his crew to donate their rations and make parachutes from handkerchiefs. As Hal's plane approached the runway and the grass came into view, he wiggled his wings, and a knot of waiting children exploded, running and jumping in the air. With the precision of bombardiers, the airmen pushed the candy out the flare chute, and white canopies floated to earth. 30 children ran with open arms to catch the treasures. You can see the little candy parachutes coming out of the plane. Really little. Here he is holding the first 3 parachutes to be dropped. Right here. All the little kids waiting for their treats. Hal and his buddies were as excited as the children. The thrill of giving was irresistible. Soon they were dropping parachutes every day, hundreds of them. The press caught on, and reports went out. Mail for Uncle Wiggly Wings began piling up at base operations. Hal found himself standing before his superior, expecting to be court-martialed. But the colonel surprised him. "Halverson," he said, "General Tunner thinks it's a good idea." Soon, hundreds of airmen were donating rations. Operation Little Vittles quickly captured the imagination of people everywhere. Candy and handkerchiefs poured in from around the world. Hal became known as the Candy Bomber and the Chocolate Pilot. Let's see. Here they're getting a ton of donations. And lots of C-54 planes. Across West Berlin, children gathered to catch the parachutes and share the candy with each other. And they sent hundreds of thank you letters, like the one addressed to Dear Uncle of the Heaven. Some included maps and instructions. Fly along the big canal to the second bridge, turn right 1 block. I live in the bombed-out house on the corner. I'll be in the backyard every day at 2 p.m. Drop the chocolate there. Day by day, the parachutes brought peace and the candy renewed hope. The children made friends of their former enemies, and their parents' hearts were softened. The wounds of war began to heal. Here's some of the letters that he got. Little pictures. Oh, that's so cute. Let me see if I can read this little letter from... Okay, it says, Dear American pilots, there was much joy when our teacher told us that we could visit the airport today. Night and day you bring us food and coal with your planes. If you would not bring us our food through the air, we would have nothing to eat. I am sure that there will be trouble sometimes. She spelled it Trooble, trouble, sometimes. And some American pilots have lost their lives in order to care for us. I thank you very much for your help and remain with the best wishes for you, Inga Sobish. There's Inga. Let's see. By December, the Little Vittles operation had gathered 18 tons of candy from American candy makers, and 3 more tons came in from private donors. The spirit of Christmas was descending on people everywhere, lifting them up in the joy of giving. Here he is with some more candy-loaded parachutes. And an old fire station became kind of the center of operations for Little Vittles. That Christmas Eve, the 27-year-old American pilot blinked back tears. The stars overhead could not be more beautiful than skies overflowing with parachutes, tumbling to earth in a brilliant display of Christmas generosity and joy. Here they are, West Berlin children trying to catch some little parachutes. This is the Brandenburg Tor in Berlin. It's quite beautiful. His father was right. From little things come big things. Hal in his cockpit pulled back on the yoke as his wheels rolled onto the familiar runway. This is the real spirit of Christmas, to give whatever we have, no matter how small the gift. In that moment, Hal Halverson prayed for the courage to never give anything less. Here's a picture of the blockade ends. Airlift wins. And him with more parachutes. Those are quite big handkerchiefs. Thank you for joining me as we read about a true hero who gave to others. And hopefully we can all be the same this Christmas and focus on giving to others selflessly. Thank you for reading with me.